An artist. A person who creates paintings or drawings as a profession or a hobby. I consider myself an artist. Throughout my entire life, I have drawn myself a new world, using my imagination, mostly, and a few Crayola colouring pencils. But now I've come to realise that art has become a much more significant part of my life, something that shapes the way I communicate and how I perceive the world and those around me, and therefore shapes a huge part of my identity and is powerful and forms a culture around myself relating to it. My mother is half French, but grew up in Vietnam and brought the culture that she was a part of into our home in Surrey. Asia is well known for its particular art style of manga, or anime, which influenced me greatly in my journey to becoming the artist that I am now. After seeing a couple of Studio Ghibli movies, which my mum had grown up with, 6-year-old me decided that this was my calling. I drew and drew and drew. From the fairies I saw in library books, to the scenes of summer fun I had on our holidays in France. When I revisited the movies at the age of 9, I had a go at drawing specifically in the manga style. In this way, the culture my mum has exposed me to affected my art at the time, but also my current artwork, as I have a respect for the cartoons, whereas others who are artists, or not, do not see anime as an art form to be taken seriously, labelling them as adult cartoons, which by definition they can be, but it seems like there is often a misunderstanding of the skill that is required to draw in the anime style. Not only has my art been a way to express my culture and the things I like to watch, it's also a form of communication. Although I do not make extremely meaningful pieces, mostly just pretty girls, my passion for artwork conveyed a message to those around me. Some would tell me that it's a waste of time, and others would tell me to follow my dream of being an artist which I had in my head. This relates to self-esteem and the looking glass theory. Even now, to those who see my work and think that I'm skilled and should invest time in it, I feel like an accomplished artist to my audience. But to those who criticise my work or think that I'm taking away from studying, I do not feel like an artist, but rather like a student who must improve their ability in art, or just a student who should concentrate on more pressing matters like exams. But, by definition, I'm always an artist. This example shows that my self-image is dependent on the reaction and interactions I have with other people. It also relates to Gergen and Gergen's self-maintenance theory, showing that when I believe that people do not have an ability in art, I will undermine their decisions. It can attack at any moment during the creation process. Many times it sets in even before you start, when the concept is still fresh in your mind, before any marks are made, or the medium is chosen. You are motivated to create, but before you can start, you tell yourself, I can't. It can also set in during the process itself, while strokes are fresh. You second-guess every decision, every mark, every colour. The art-making process quickly becomes a mental struggle with yourself. The enjoyment of creating art starts to fade, along with your motivation. This extract from the visual instructor demonstrates the importance of self-confidence in art, and therefore relates to my identity and its power. Not only does it affect the process, but the outcome usually isn't as good if you're doubting your work. Furthermore, this quote highlights the self-doubt that I know I experience when painting, because I have an irrational desire to please. This relates to my culture also, because of the constant flow of restricted codes and data from when I was a child and the lack of mediocre success. I now feel a pressure to succeed in everything I do. Most of the time art retracts from this part of my culture, but in times of self-doubt, my culture will affect my ability to work. The idea of feeling judged as a person, based on my artwork, also links to how art has changed my self-esteem, and therefore who I am. I'm not always impressed with what I make, but if I were to give up and think I'm less of an artist, this low self-esteem would lead to a downward spiral. Self-esteem is crucial in art, and I think that it's made me into a more confident person due to the fact that I have to sometimes accept failure but pick myself back up again. Therefore, being an artist has changed who I am and how I view myself. However, I didn't always have self-esteem and often leant towards copying the work of other artists in an attempt to get praise. This leads on to how art is a form of communication, in that it gives out restricted and unrestricted codes. With my art, and any art, I believe that we can all appreciate it, but people with an understanding and knowledge of the time and skill that goes into art judge my work with a more suitable view, in a more suitable manner. And those people I communicate with through restricted codes. Hence why I never understood why the hosts of the Antique Roadshow were so interested in some pots and bits of metal. They were sending restricted codes about the quality of that spoon to their audience, who are able to decode them efficiently. I feel like I'm on the other end of this too. I appreciate artwork much more now, and even everyday scenes are impacted by my newfound appreciation for lighting and colour. So, being an artist has changed my perspective on a daily basis, and therefore is extremely powerful. My art also affects who I'm communicating with, and who I invest my time in to please. In general, my art is made to be seen, often to look nice. Therefore, it is broadcast. I don't often delve into metaphorical meanings in my art. However, sometimes I adapt my work to communicate with specific people. For example, showing off a skill in an art project or an illustration for a book, so I can communicate with the readers. Overall, art is a huge part of my life, which has sculpted who I am in the same way that who I am has sculpted my art. It is a form of escape, which I delve into and a form of communication with those around me. I can reflect my feelings or my culture. I change my self-image and confidence, and it teaches me discipline and patience, which I incorporate in my everyday life. It differentiates me from the mass, but also brings me closer to groups of people who are interested in it. Therefore, not only have I changed my art over the years, but art has changed me. Thank you for listening.